Okay, welcome back. Today we're jumping straight into some gardening notes, focusing on a project that really demanded some patience. We're talking about the Mexican sunflower, Tithonia Rotundifolia.
Right, and the anticipation around seeing something like that finally bloom, especially when you've, invested quite a bit of time.
Exactly. Our source material today is Notes on Gardening, Part 688. It tracks one gardener's experience, specifically the big reveal after about 120 days.
4 months. That's the time frame we're looking at here. From planting way back in June, which was mentioned in an earlier note, part 570, I think.
120 days. That's a significant chunk of a growing season. A lot of watering, waiting, tending.
hmm A real investment. You putting in the effort, the resources, hoping for that specific outcome.
Which really raises the stakes, doesn't it? You wait that long, you're expecting, well, perfection, or at least what you order.
Precisely. And that's where these notes get particularly interesting. The bloom happened, but the initial look brought some, let's say, surprises.
Okay, let's unpack this. First off, the moment of truth arrives, the flower opens, and the very first thing they notice isn't about the plant's health or vigor, but something more fundamental.
The color.
The color. They were aiming for a red one, right? A specific red cultivar.
Yes, that's what the notes say. Teutonia can have this really vibrant, almost fiery red. That was the goal.
And instead?
Orange. Plain old orange. Not even like reddish orange. Just orange.
Wow. Okay, and the gardener's take on this?
Their immediate thought, reading between the lines, seems to be about the source. They suspect the seeds they bought were simply mislabeled.
Ah, the classic supply chain issue. You order one thing, you get another.
It happens more often than you'd think, especially with seeds sometimes. But think about the implications here. You've waited 120 days.
Ah.
Invested all that time and care, planned your garden layout maybe around this specific red color.
Right, for contrast or a theme.
Exactly. And now you get orange. The gardener is suddenly in this impromptu quality control situation. Is it just this one flower acting weird?
Yeah.
A mutation?
Or is the whole packet of seeds wrong? Did they just spend 4 months growing the wrong product entirely?
That's the uncertainty they're facing. It really highlights how crucial that initial input is, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a great point for anything, really, not just gardening. Think about projects, research. If your starting material, your initial data, your seed, is flawed, all the effort you pour in afterwards, no matter how meticulous, might be fundamentally undermined. That tiny error at the start cascades into a major disappointment, potentially months down the line. You did the work, but the foundation was off.
Okay, so the color was a bust, but let's put that aside for a moment. An orange sunflower is still nice,
Yeah,
right?
objectively. But then came the second issue, also aesthetic, but this time about scale.
The size.
Right.
What was the expectation versus reality there?
Well, Mexican sunflowers, Tithonia, they're generally known for being pretty substantial. Big, robust plants, impressive flowers. The gardener mentions seeing pictures online.
Ah, the online pictures, always perfect, aren't they? Exactly. Depicting these, huge showstopper blooms, dinner plate sized almost.
And what they actually got in their garden.
Considerably smaller. The notes actually compare it to a common daisy, or maybe at best like a miniature version of a regular sunflower head.
Okay, that's quite a difference. From showstopper to daisy size.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. That contrast between the idealized image and the ground truth.
So what could be behind that? Is it just misleading photos online or something else?
It could be a bit of both. Online photos are often, best case scenarios, perfect conditions, maybe specific giant cultivars.
Right, not your average backyard situation.
Definitely not. But the small size could also hint at underlying issues with the plant's growth. It might not just be a different, smaller cultivar.
Like what?
Well, think about environmental stress. If the plant struggled with, say, water, nutrients, maybe not enough direct sun.
It wouldn't have the energy for big flowers.
Precisely. It diverts energy just to survive, maybe produce a flower, but not necessarily the huge one it's genetically capable of under ideal conditions.
Yeah.
The small size, especially after that long 120-day wait.
Suggests it wasn't exactly thriving.
It seems plausible, yeah. Which leads us neatly into the next section of the notes, moving past the looks of the flower.
And into the actual experience of growing it, the operational side, if you will.
The gardener started looking at the effort involved versus the disappointing payoff they got.
And it sounds like growing it wasn't exactly a walk in the park.
Not according to these notes, no. They identified three main challenges, three significant drawbacks to cultivating this particular species in their garden.
Okay, let's break those down. What was the first one?
Fragility. The plant itself is described as rather fragile. Needed careful handling, maybe staking, more susceptible to wind or damage than other things in the garden.
Okay, so point one, needs gentle treatment. What's next?
Pests. Apparently it was highly susceptible to pests, a real magnet for them.
Ah, that's always a headache. Constant vigilance, treatment. Sounds like a lot of extra work.
It really does. You could almost think of it like technical debt in a project.
Yeah.
It just constantly drains resources, requires monitoring and intervention just to keep it going.
Right. Okay, fragile, pest-prone. What was the third challenge?
The environment. It needed a very specific microclimate to really do well. Specifically, full, direct, unrelenting sunlight.
No compromise, no dappled shade.
Apparently not. It demanded that prime, sunny real estate in the garden, which, might be limited or already occupied by other plants.
So fragile, attracts pests, and needs the best spot in the yard. That's quite demanding.
It is, and if we connect this back, the gardener found themselves putting in all this extra effort dealing with these challenges.
For a plant that ultimately didn't deliver on the key things, they wanted the right color and the expected size.
Exactly. The effort-to-reward ratio started looking pretty bad.
Yeah.
High-maintenance operation, disappointing results.
You can see why they'd start questioning if it's worth it, especially given that initial seed mix-up. The trust is already kind of broken.
That whole cost-benefit analysis, it seems, led to a pretty firm decision about the future, or at least a conditional one.
Ah, the verdict. So what's the plan for Tithonia in this garden going forward? Are they ripping it out?
Not immediately,
Mm.
but they set a very specific condition for trying again next year.
Okay. What is it?
They stated they will only attempt to plant this species again if, and this is the crucial part, if they can successfully harvest viable seeds from the current orange flowers.
Ah, so they want to collect their own seeds from this batch.
Yes, if these plants, despite the challenges and the wrong color, manage to produce good, viable seeds that they can collect themselves.
Then they might give it another go using those seeds.
Correct. But if they can't get viable seeds from this generation,
They're done. No more ordering Tithonia seeds.
that seems to be the bottom line. No more attempts with this species if they can't propagate it themselves for the plants they actually grew.
That's fascinating. It's like they're saying, okay, supplier failed me on the label. Now, plant, you need to prove you can actually reproduce successfully here under my conditions before I invest in you again.
It's a really pragmatic approach, isn't it? They're shifting the quality control. No more trusting external labels. The proof has to come from the plant's own performance in their environment.
So if it can't even manage to set viable seed after all that,
Then the experiment is deemed a failure. Too much work, too many issues, unreliable inputs, and now potentially unable to even sustain itself.
so what does this all mean, wrapping it up? High maintenance, fragile, pests, picky about sun, aesthetic failures, wrong color, surprisingly small size, leading to this conditional rejection.
Yeah, it needs to prove its worth internally now. Prove it can adapt and reproduce locally.
It really raises an interesting question, doesn't it? That balance between the thrill of trying something new, the joy of discovery, versus the hard reality of the resources, the time, the effort, the garden space that a challenging species demands.
Especially when the initial promise doesn't quite pan out. For this gardener, it seems the novelty just wasn't enough to outweigh the difficulties and the disappointments.
So, recapping for everyone listening, we saw this 120-day journey, 4 months of anticipation,
Culminating in the shock of orange instead of red, and flowers much smaller than the online hype.
followed by the realization that the plant was actually quite demanding, fragile, pest-ridden, needing that perfect sunny spot.
Leading to the final verdict.
Oh.
It only gets another chance if it proves it can produce viable seeds right here, right now. No more relying on potentially mislabeled external sources.
And that final point really sticks with me, that condition about harvesting their own seeds.
It brings it all back to the beginning, doesn't it? The quality of the initial input.
Yeah. Think about it beyond gardening. How often, maybe in our work, our research, even business ventures, does the ultimate success hinge almost entirely on getting that first step right? On the quality control of the initial component, the seed we start with.
It's a powerful thought. All the hard work, the dedication, the resources poured in downstream. Sometimes it just can't compensate if that very first piece wasn't what it was supposed to be.
Something definitely worth considering the next time you're sourcing something critical for a long-term project. Okay, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.